Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Talk for Beginners. My name is Daniel, and I'm here with my son Alec, who's going to join us for this video series. Um, I have been involved with computers, software, and the internet in general since I was 10 years old, which was a long time ago. And this has become my passion. And why we decided to do this series is because we want to inspire other people to learn more about technology and to become maybe web developers or something else related to the internet. This is especially true for young people that are just finishing school and are wondering in which direction to take their life. I mean, maybe watching this series will give you an idea, or maybe you will develop some interest in becoming web developers or software engineers or network engineers or anything related to computers, which is very uh, a field that offers a lot of opportunities nowadays. I mean, every company has need for a lot of people in this field. And I know the job market is currently um, full of offers and not enough developers. So I really hope to inspire somebody to become a web developer and have a good career with very successful, financially and professionally. So the idea is we wanted to start really from the beginning, talking about the internet in general. What is a web browser? What is a website? How does your computer, your browser talk to the server online to show your website? And all these topics, maybe a lot of you have used the internet, gone to Google and search something and open a website and look at it. But what does really happen behind the scenes? How does all this work? I mean, I know it looks like magic, but there's some really interesting technology behind it. And if you understand what's going on behind it, it's really fascinating how everything ties together. So what is the internet? I mean, the internet is basically, it's been around for the theoretical work started in the 1920s, actually, which means it's been around as a theory. It's been around for about 100 years already. Um, in the late 60s, the Department of Defense developed ARPANET, which was a system that they used to exchange information between different systems, different computer systems. Uh, and moving forward in the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s, a technology for packet switching was developed. And when I say packet, I mean a packet of information. So for example, my name is Daniel, right? But when you transfer it through the wire, through the internet, it doesn't go as Daniel. It goes in packets. It may go at DIN and IEL separately. And the technology to separate everything in packets and then transfer it through the wire and put it together on the other end, it's called packet switching. And there is a technology, we call it a protocol, called Transmission Control Protocol / Internet Protocol, or TCP / IP for brevity. This protocol was developed to enable this transmission of information and putting it together on the other end. And this protocol was developed by, if I'm not mistaken, in the 70s, and it's still used today to transfer information through the internet. In the early 80s, the so-called ISP, which means Internet Service Provider companies, were formed, and they started offering the internet as a service to their clients, to the public. I mean, anyone could have gotten an internet service provider and connect to the internet. The official birthday of the internet is, January 1st, 1983. That's the official date, but it's really hard to say exactly what date was because, the technology was evolving really rapidly throughout the 80s and the 70s. So they have it. I mean, it's been 100 years in the works, and we are at the point that with the powerful computers we have now, we can watch movies, we can stream, we can, watch YouTube like it's running on our computer, and everything is happening thousands of miles away on some server. So the technology really in the last 20 years have, or actually 30 years have skyrocketed when it comes to the internet. And now you can't even imagine your life without the internet. Can you imagine going to a computer and not having internet? I mean, that's like, it's unimaginable, right? We can't even imagine our lives without it. So to go back to what's happening behind the scenes, on your computer, you have, as you can see on my computer, I have opened Google Chrome, which is a browser. A browser is a software program that allows you to type an address like this one here, for example, dragnevholdings.com. And when you press enter, the browser knows how to go to the internet, connect to the server that is hosting this site, and brings back the information and displays it for you. So this process happens almost instantaneously. It takes less than a second, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that is being done. So a website, basically, when we talk about the website is a collection of files that are written by the developer and posted on a server. And I'm going to explain, we're going to go back to this, what the server is and how that works. But just for now, just imagine the server is another computer. So these files are posted on a server. And when our computer requests them, the server gives our browser the files. And the browser takes all those files. They could be thousands of files. They could be 3 or 4 files. It puts them together based on a file type and knows how to display all this information and show it to you in a way that is intended by the developer. So that's basically the website. It's a collection of files on a server. So to go back to what is a client, what is a server? A client is any computer that consumes information from the internet. So you might be requesting, for example, a website. So if I type this, dragnevholdings.com, I'm going to get the whole website. But if I can request just an image, for example, from the internet, I can type this, and when I press enter, it's going to give me just the image. I can request a database file. I can request anything, any resource, basically. This is called a resource. So anything that it's available on the internet, you can request it. You can request a video, you can request a sound, a music video, or anything that's available on the internet can be transmitted and rendered by your browser in a certain way. I mean, you can get a PDF file, you can get a Word file. Some files will be displayed in a browser. And if the browser cannot display the file, doesn't know how to display the file, it will download it to your computer and you can open it locally on your computer. So how does all this work? I mean, okay, we request this, but how does the browser know to go to this server? I mean, where is this server sitting? I mean, this is when you think about it, the internet is this vast network of millions of computers around the world. How does my computer know to go to the server that holds the files for Dragnev Holdings and bring it back here? Okay, so to go back, let's go back a step. What we see here, the name dragnevholdings.com is actually called a domain name. This is the name that it's known. It's a unique name that actually is like somebody's name. Well, actually, it's not a good analogy because 2 people can be called the same thing. This is a unique name that identifies this website. But in addition, because the computers don't like to work with strings, with letters, and they prefer numbers. So behind this name, there's actually a number, a specific combination of numbers called an IP address. So an IP address is actually and I'm going to show you here very quickly. There's a command that you can use. it's called ping. So what ping does is basically, it doesn't matter for this context, but it just goes to the internet and queries this site. And it comes back with this number, 104.198.14.52. So this is a special format number. It could be four, as you can see, there's four sections separated by dots. And each section can contain up to 3 numbers. So it could be 1, 2, or 3 numbers. So this is called the IP address. So this IP address uniquely identifies this website on the internet. So every time if the computer wants to access this website, it will look for it by the IP address. For our convenience, because humans, we like to read text, not numbers. So instead of remembering this number, which is much tougher to remember than dragnevholdings.com, there's such thing as domain name, which is tied, this domain name is tied to this IP address. So the question here comes, how does my computer, my browser, knows that Dragnev Holdings is actually this IP address? And the answer is, there is a special system outside in internet called domain name system, or DNS. This is a hierarchical and decentralized naming system used to identify computer services and other resources reachable through the internet. So in other words, it's a network of computers where all this information is distributed. So my computer is configured to work with a couple of DNS servers, for example, Google's DNS servers. And when I try to access a website, I type dragnevholdings.com. My computer, the first thing it does, it goes to Google's DNS service and says, "Hey Google, what is dragnevholdings.com IP address?" And this comes back, and then my browser knows how to connect to this server. So it goes and connects to the server behind this IP address. The server says, "Oh, you want to see dragnevholdings.com? Great, here's your files." The browser receives the files and displays them for you. So there's a couple of moving parts, but if you start thinking about it, and once you get used to the idea and really learn how everything works behind the scenes, you're going to see that it's not all that difficult. It's just very logical and well organized. And so to demonstrate this, let me open. So Google Chrome has this function. If you actually right click and say inspect, it will pull this up, which will show you all kinds of stuff. It will show you the code behind the website. But the interesting thing is, when we refresh the website, you can actually see, because my browser went to the server that hosts dragnevholdings.com and said, "I want to see the website." The server said, "Okay, here's your files," and return all those files. All those files came back. As you can see, a simple website with a couple of pages only, and has so many different files. And there's a couple of different types of files that I want to talk about. So the 3 main technologies that are used, I mean, obviously, I'm talking really general here. If a web developer is listening to me, will say, "No, that's not true. There's many other technologies." But the 3 main technologies that are used are called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, specifically for this site, right? So the HTML is actually the actual document. And this is the HTML is the language that actually describes what you see here. For example, here, the HTML says, "Okay, display this block of text," and inside display this H2 means header level 2, which is a fairly good big size, and inside display this text, "Why work with us?" So that's how the browser knows that when he sees this H2, knows how to display it and displays the text written inside. And this is basically HTML. It's a series of different, we call them tags, and each tag means something to the browser. When you say P, that stands for paragraph. It displays a block of text in a way that's described by the developer. So the text inside, and you can style it, and I'm talking about the styling in a second. Then when you see a div, that stands for, I'm not sure, but it's probably division or something, because the div actually allows you to specify a section of the page. Then you have a footer here, which is right here. Here's the footer with some information. You can have a header, which is right here on the top. All kinds of there's many different tags you can specify, but for now, it suffices to know that the HTML is the language to describe what to display on the site. And then the next type of file is the CSS. The CSS is basically, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and the CSS is basically I don't know if I want to call it the language, but this is the file that describes how every element should look. So for example, here we say the P element should have this color, should have this font weight. That means how thick the font will be, and this element will have also this tag. Also, the line height will be 23 pixels. I know this is all foreign to you now, but just know for now that the CSS actually allows you to style elements, and I'll show you in a second what I mean. And the third type of file is actually the JavaScript file. The JavaScript file, let me see if I can find a good example here. Yeah, it's really difficult to see. But so the JavaScript actually is a programming language designed to add interactivity to the site. So with JavaScript, you can write code to allow when you click on something to happen. When you go over, no, that's probably done with CSS, but you can do a lot of different things with JavaScript. You can hide, show stuff. You can contact the server, grab some more information, do all kinds of stuff. So JavaScript is a very powerful language. So for now, just know that the JavaScript provides the functionality. So to recap, you have your HTML, which describes how you document, how your website should look like, your web page should look like. You got the CSS that describes the actual style of each element. And then you have a JavaScript that describes the functionality of the site, right? So these are the three elements. And I want to show you one thing. For example, here's about Dragnet Holdings. This is some texts. If I find this text and I say, you know what, I don't like it in this, I can make it any color I want. Let's say I want to make it blue. And as you can see, I change it to blue. I could make it bold. So I can make it bold and it will become really prominent here, right? I can even hide it. It's gone now. It's not here. So this is actually how CSS, this is actually the CSS part, right? That allows you to style things. The HTML, so for example, right here, I can add, here's an HTML example. So right here, inside this div, I can create another h1. And each tag starts with a brackets, right? The way it is now. Don't worry about this. We're going to talk in future videos about the actual syntax and how everything works. So we're going to add this thing here, an h1 tag, and when we press enter, we're going to see that's what we entered, another tag, and our browser knows when I enter h1 tag to display it this way. And I can even come here and I'm going to say, you know what, I don't like it this way, I want to make it red. Remember the commands? So it's color red. So now it's red. And you can do all kinds of stuff here with it. You can even transform it. So I can do text transform, and I could make it uppercase. I can make it lowercase. I can capitalize it. It's already capitalized, but you can do a lot of cool things. And the interesting part is that you can actually, with CSS, you can do stuff like, for example, detect when the mouse goes over. So watch what happens here. If I go over this, it changes the color because the CSS code behind it. So I have some CSS written here that detects when the mouse goes over, changes. And yeah, you can do stuff like this. I mean, you can add, you can write your HTML code, then you style it with your CSS. And the last thing I want to show you is actually how you write some JavaScript. I mean, it's a very simple command that you can execute. So I just executed a JavaScript code here, and this JavaScript code basically creates a pop-up, and it says "Hello Internet." Exactly what I wrote here, right? So that's basically the basic structure of a website. You have the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript, and put all these together, it creates a website. And you've seen probably some fantastic websites that do all kinds of cool things. It's all, when you boil it down to the basics, it all comes down to these three technologies 99% of the time. There's other technologies, of course, but most of the times you're going to see those three. And that's why in the future videos, we're going to focus on the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript technologies, because I'm a firm believer that you have to, in order to achieve something, you have to, first of all, do it practically. At least that's how I learn. I like to get my hands dirty and start doing stuff, and then I learn much easier this way. And second, learn efficiently. So you don't have to go to, and I want to say that I'm not knocking down going to college or anything like that. Totally on the contrary. I mean, encourage everyone to go to college and to get higher education. But if you want to learn something, let's say how to build a website, you don't need to go to a college for 4 years, because you're going to learn so much more stuff there. You're going to become, I mean, a lot more advanced if you're in college. But if you just want to learn how to build a website, just learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will get you started. And yeah, so I think we'll leave it at this today, because we don't want to go too deep into anything. I mean, we can talk about for hours about any of those things. I hope that you find this video informative, and I hope that you join us next time when we'll start discussing the website structure, how everything is put together, how to actually, what I want to do is I want to get, Alec is being very quiet there, but I want to get Alec involved and have him do stuff with me, and everyone else at home can follow as well. So we can all learn by example. And just by the end of the video series, maybe we'll be able to put together a simple website, and I can even walk you through how to put it on the internet and make it available to everyone to see. So with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.